Hello, St. Luke's. Father Dave Snyder here. I'm speaking to you this morning from the beautiful sanctuary of St. Stephen's Episcopal Church in Riverside. And I don't know if you know, but on the 13th of October, I'm going to be preaching at all three of the services at St. Luke's. I've been invited to come and kind of launch your annual stewardship campaign with a homily. And the theme of my homily is going to be the relationship between fear and Christian stewardship. And my own personal theology of stewardship has been evolving over the years, and I've been ordained now 33 years. But it's based on three foundational principles that I'd like to share with you as kind of a prelude for what I'm going to preach about on the 13th of October. The first foundational principle is that everything that we have belongs to God, it comes from God, that we are not owners of the things that we have, but we are stewards. And in the biblical sense, a steward is a person who manages not their own wealth, not their own assets, but somebody else's assets. So everything that we have is a gift from God, it comes from God, and it belongs to God. And all that God asks of us is that we be good and faithful stewards of the things that we have. So that's the first foundational principle. The second foundational principle of my own personal stewardship theology is that authentic Christian stewardship, it's not really about fundraising. It's not primarily about fundraising. Of course, it has a fundraising dimension to it, but it's not primarily about fundraising. Christian stewardship is really about Christian formation. It's about our growth in our relationship with God and His Son, Jesus Christ. And that stewardship is a mechanism, a means by which we grow in our relationship because we learn how to trust, and that's at the basis of our relationship. So authentic Christian stewardship is not primarily about fundraising. And an illustration that I often use when I'm talking about this is if on Monday morning, Father Kent receives a check for $6 million, an undesignated gift for $6 million, St. Luke's would never have to do any more fundraising. You could live off the income that generous gift would generate. You wouldn't need to do any more fundraising, but you would still need to do stewardship, because stewardship is not primarily about fundraising. And the third foundational principle of my own personal theology of stewardship is that the greatest barrier to a robust and healthy practice of stewardship is fear. And that's what we'll be talking about on the 13th. Now, I haven't finished my homily yet, but I know pretty much the direction that I'm going to go. And it used to be that I thought that the greatest barrier to Christian stewardship was selfishness and greed. But I've come to see that fear is really the greatest barrier. And until we address the fear that we have, we'll never be the kind of stewards that God expects us to be and would like us to be, and we'll never experience the great joy that comes from being generous and being rich toward God, as it says in the scriptures. So those are the three foundational principles that have kind of evolved in my own understanding and my own theology of Christian stewardship. So I'll give you a little bit of a prelude to what I'm going to be talking about on the 13th. The text that I have chosen for my homily is Luke 12, verses 32 through 34. And I'll read that for you. Jesus said, "Do not be afraid, little flock. It is your heavenly Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Sell your possessions and give alms. Make purses for yourselves that do not wear out, an unfailing treasure in heaven. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Where your treasure is, there will your heart be also." So I'd like to conclude this brief presentation by sharing one of my favorite stewardship quotations. It was written by a Christian missionary named James Elliot, who, along with 4 of his missionary colleagues, was murdered in 1956 by the very people that he was trying to serve in Ecuador. And commenting on Elliot's comment on Jesus' words from Luke chapter 12, he wrote, "He is not a fool who gives what he cannot keep to gain what he cannot lose." Let me say that again. He is not a fool who gives what he cannot keep in order to gain what he cannot lose. So thanks so much for the privilege of being the preacher on your launching of your annual stewardship campaign this year. Susan and I are looking forward to being with you on October 13th. God bless you.